What's up guys and welcome to 61 Harbinger, the Mage's melee DPS soul. Harbinger is currently the Mage's top single target damage option, as well as having excellent dual target damage and some pretty solid area effect damage as well. So in this guide I'll show you where to put your soul points, which masteries to select, as well as how to play Harbinger. So let's go ahead and get started. Looking at the soul tree breakdown, you'll see we put the full 61 points in Harbinger. That is because they recently buffed the 61 point ability Empyrean Ascension, making it do 40% damage extra for 15 seconds, which is pretty big deal. For the secondary soul, we go 13 in Stormcaller, that's 5 in Storm Energy for the 10% spell power increase, 2 in Conductive Medium for a 6% damage increase whenever you use a charge ability, 1 in Living Storm, which is going to be an awesome cleave ability, 4 in Cyclogenesis, which increases your critical hit chance by 4%, and lastly 1 in Hailstorm, which is a really strong single target ability, but also a stronger Cleave slash AoE ability. But we'll talk about this more later on. Also, for going 13 in Stormcaller, you pick up Thunder Shock, which is nice for disconnects, and also Ride the Wind, which gives a 50% movement speed increase and also functions as a break free. For the third soul, we go 2 in Elementalist. This is going to allow us to pick up Lightning Strike, but we put those 2 points in Biting Cold for the 2% critical hit chance increase. That's it for the souls, guys. For the masteries, level 61, we take Arcane Shield. This is going to allow your critical hits to apply a 3% max health absorb shield to you once every 6 seconds. Level 62, we take Rejuvenating Presence. This is going to allow your Lucent Slash, which is one of your AoE spam abilities here. It's going to allow your Lucent Slash to spread your Blazing Light, which is a damage over time ability you get to up to 5 enemies. So this is really nice for those AoE environments or those cleave environments. Level 63, we take Mental Cynosure. This is going to increase your mana regeneration by 10%, but more importantly, it's going to increase the amount of charge your abilities generate by 10%. And this is really important because this is a pretty charge-starved build. Level 64, Sparking Destruction. This is going to allow your damaging single target abilities to apply a stack of Sparking Destruction to you. The stacks explode upon reaching 3 stacks, dealing ethereal damage to you, or to the enemy rather, equal to 90% of your spell power. So pretty good stuff there. This also increases the range of your Gap Closer from 20 meters to 30 meters. That's Blade Rush. Level 65, we take Arcane Manipulation. There's a couple options you have here. You can take Arcane Manipulation or you can take Ethereal Blast. Totally up to you. Arcane Manipulation is off global cooldown. Ethereal Blast is on global cooldown. They both have 30-second cooldowns. However, if you read the last line, Ethereal Blast has its cooldown reduced by 3 seconds for using cast time or channeled abilities. Well, you might think, well, all this build's mostly instant, right? Yeah, but however, when you use your procs for the cast time procs like Hailstorm, Lightning Strike, it counts as a cast time ability and will reduce the cooldown. However, Ethereal Blast is on global cooldown, and what that means is that if you use it, you shouldn't just toss it in a spam macro. You should use it outside the spam macro and during key times because it's not a slashing attack and it doesn't count for a lot of your buffs and stuff that Harbinger gets. So I would recommend doing Arcane Manipulation myself, but it's totally up to you. So that's it for the souls and masteries, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about the macros. So looking at the macros, starting at the top here, we have the main spam macro, which is going to start by having a cast not active charge blade. Now, Charge Blade is going to be this guy right here. Increases the mage's slashing attacks damage by 20%. Each one of them consumes 5 charge. However, it also will increase all other damage by 8%. So it works on literally everything. It just gives more bonus to slashing attacks. So we got Vorpal Slash at the top. That's the highest priority slash that you have, followed by Storm's Fury, which is another one. Then we have Rending Slash, and then we have Thunder Shock here, which is for disconnects. Looking at the bottom of the macro, we have Introspection. This is going to be for mana gain. You can just toss this in the macro and it'll keep you pretty much topped up the entire time. We have Vengeful Shock. This guy right here can only be cast after the enemy dodges or blocks one of your attacks. So pretty good stuff. Just toss it in your macro. It's off global cooldown and it'll fire whenever it's available. We have Conditioned Response. This guy right here is a 30-second cooldown heal that gives you charge. It's off global cooldown, so this is for charge management. It'll also reset every time you critically hit, and that can happen once every 5 seconds. So you're pretty much going to be casting this once every 5 seconds. Then, of course, at the bottom, we have the cast itself Arcane Manipulation line here. If you're good at managing your cooldowns, this Arcane Manipulation is also going to be in your cooldown macro. You can delete this line, but if you'd rather have it managed automatically for you, you can leave it in the spam macro. For the Proc Macro here, we have Hailstorm being shown. We have another cast not active Charge Blade. Remember that Charge Blade will also give 8% to all other abilities as well, so you want to make sure you pick up those bonuses for these also. We have a cast at shift Icicle. What this does, this little shift modifier here, is if I hit this 2 key, which is where this guy is, it'll first start and cast Hailstorm. But if I hold shift down and then hit the 2 key, it'll fire off Icicle. The one thing you're going to want to note is if you don't already have the default shift keybinds deleted, you're going to want to go into the keybinds menu, scroll all the way down to the shift +1, shift +2, shift +3, etc. You're going to want to delete those because what those do by default is they're going to change your hotbar loadouts from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and etc. So what you're going to want to make sure you do is delete those, and then this will work just fine for you. So moving on down, of course, we have Hailstorm, which is an extremely strong cleave ability. And we also have Lightning Strike and Crystalline Missiles, which are from your Elementals tree. This is your Proc Macro. You can label it Proc too if you want to help you remember. It's totally up to you. I try to keep my UI as clean as I can. Moving on down, we got Lucent Slash. This is again going to be your AoE ability, AoE Spam. We have a Cast Not Active Charge Blade. We have Cast Shift at GTA Hailstorm and Cast Shift Fork Lightning. Now what this is going to do for you is if you hit 3, it's just going to fire off Lucent Slash. If you hold Shift and hit 3, it's going to fire off your Hailstorm, which ideally you'd have a proc for. And if that Hailstorm is down, it would fire off Fork Lightning. So you can use your entire AoE setup from this one macro. Moving on down, we have Tempest Winds. This is just going to be another Cast Not Active Charge Blade and Cast Tempest Winds. Moving on down again, we have a Charge Macro. This is just a cancel buff for your Charge Blade, so it'll turn this guy off and allow you to gain some charge if you get too charge starved. Moving on up to the Blade Mark macro. This is just a Cast at Focus Blade Mark. So what this guy's going to do is you're going to focus a target, and then you can start on another target, and then whenever Blade Mark is up, you can just tap the macro, and it'll automatically cast it on your focus. Now this also works if you don't have a focus, it'll just cast it on whatever you're targeting, so it's dual purpose. Moving on down, we have a Stun macro. This is just so I could label it. One more, we have the cooldown macro. This is going to have your Empyrean Ascension, which is this guy right here. It's going to have Storm Shroud, which is this guy right here. And it's also going to have your arcane manipulation in it as well. Okay, and this guy is going to be your piercing beam macro. It's going to have a cancel buff in it as well. What this is going to do for us is allow us to gain a little bit extra charge when we refresh this ability. This ability does a lot less damage than the other abilities do, so it's not too terribly important to have it buffed, and it helps you manage your charge a little bit better. Moving on down, we have the break free macro. There is a lot of break frees in this build. You have Ride the Wind, Planar Retreat. So this is Ride the Wind. We have Planar Retreat, which is a 20-meter leap back. Then we have the standard break free, and then we have the Fading Light, which is from the Planar Attunement. And then of course we have a Arcane Manipulation cast itself. You don't actually really even need this, but if you decide that you want to preload it before the fight, you can. I like to use mine with Storm Shroud and Empyrean Ascension, but totally up to you. So that's it for the macros, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about the action bar briefly. So starting at the top left here, we have Eldritch Armor. Most important buff for this build. Grants the mage's slashing attacks a 60% chance to reduce the cast time of their next ability by 2.5 seconds. Oh, look at that. 2.5 seconds on Lightning Strike. And then also will allow you to decrease the mana cost by 40% as well. And it occurs once every 3 seconds. This is the staple of this build, and this is a really important buff to make sure that you have on. Don't forget this, definitely. Moving over to the right, we have a couple different weapon buffs. Another one of the staples of Harbinger is that they have 2 different weapon buffs they can choose from, or actually 3, but there's only 2 relevant ones. So Reaper's Blade is going to summon a Deadly Scythe that is going to allow your slashing attacks to do an extra 2200 damage and also heal you for a little bit. And also, if you kill something, if you hit something within 5 seconds of it dying, it'll increase your damage by 10% as well. Over here we have the Luminous Weapon. This is going to be your AoE weapon. This is going to cause your melee attacks to do an additional 1100 damage, so less damage than Reaper's Blade, but it does it to 5 enemies, so it'll be a gain if you do it for an AoE environment, if you swap to this in AoE environments. So moving over to the right, we have Charge Blade. You don't actually technically ever have to manage this from this because it's literally in almost all your macros, but it's here just in case. This is just the Planar Attunement Weapon Aegis, gives you 30 endurance. We have Arcane Manipulation here. Moving on down, on the Z keybind, we have Living Storm. This is a really strong AoE cleave ability. On X, we have Planar Shield. This is really strong, especially in PvP. On Q, we have Piercing Beam, which is that 11% damage increase. On E, we have Blazing Light, which is going to be your damage over time ability that also increases your dodge chance by 10%. On R, we have the cooldown macro. I also have Storm Shroud right next to it so that I can see them both, make sure that all 3 of these guys all fire at the same time. I want to make sure they all go on cooldown. Moving down to the main bar, we have Vorpal Slash macro or Slash macro. On 2, we have the Proc Macro. On 3, we have the Lucent Slash. 4, we have the Tempest Winds. 5, we have Rending Slash. These are all macros, by the way. We have Rending Slash macro here. We have Phantom Blades. Now, Phantom Blades is really awesome. It increases the range of the mage's single target melee range attacks to 30 meters. So this effectively makes you a ranged class for about 50% uptime for 15 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. That's pretty insane stuff. Number 7, we have Blade Mark. This is going to be really important as well. It's going to deal about 9, I think it reduces your damage by 10%, but deals your damage to 2 targets. That's extremely strong. We'll talk more about this later. On 8, we have the range stun. On 9, we have the interrupt. On the middle click or 0 key, we have the gap closer. That is also a stun. And then on the minus key, we have Essence Wind, which is going to increase the dodge chance by 40% and also increase your movement speed by 50%. And then, of course, on the equals key, we got the break free macro. Now, something to note with the interrupt stuff, typically depending on what I'm doing or what fight we're on, I'll swap these guys out to have, interrupt on middle click or, gap closer on middle click, depending on what I need. That's something that you can do as well. Now, up here, we didn't talk about these. There's about 10 different skills here that I would just put here so I can show you the tooltips on them. This Rune Shield is from the Ascended tree. What this is going to do is if you have full charge, it'll reduce the damage you take by 25% for each ability that hits you up to 5 abilities. This is used for PvP. This is Forked Lightning. This is going to be on a shift modifier in your Lucent Slash macro. This is Lightning Strike, which is going to be in your Hailstorm macro. This is Rift Tomb. This is another one of those Ascended abilities that you get. This is a pretty sweet one for PvP. It's basically just lock somebody down for 10 seconds. Glaring Fetters is a snare. Phase Step is going to make your next 3 single target damage abilities teleport you to the target. Again, it's pretty sweet for PvP. Planar Retreat is going to teleport you 20 meters back, but it is a break free. This is your Stormcaller Ride the Wind break free, regular break free, and PA break free. So that's it for the action bar, guys. Let's talk about K-alerts real quick, and we'll get into the rotation. So there's quite a few that I track here. It looks like a lot, but some of them are just like a cooldown, and then I'll track an up timer on that cooldown. So let's see what that looks like. Starting at the bottom left, we have Rending Slash, which is going to be an 8% damage increase. So you're going to want to track that and make sure that stays up. However, the only real big time you have to worry about it is in the beginning of the fight or on target swaps, because it pretty much manages itself automatically. Right here we got Piercing Beam. That's the 11% damage increase that you get from that. Lasts 30 seconds. And of course we have Blazing Light right here, which is the damage over time ability, or that also increases your dodge chance by 10%. And of course we also have Living Storm right here, just so you can track that in scenarios where you're actually using it. Moving on up here we have Conductive Medium. This is going to track your stacks of Conductive Medium, or not really track your stacks of Conductive Medium, but it's going to tell you when your Conductive Medium is coming off. So this thing right here will start counting down at 5, letting you know that you have 5 seconds until this falls off and you need to use a charge ability. Something to note that you can do for this is if it's about to fall off, you can literally just toggle your charge blade real quick and it'll refresh it. Moving on up, we have the Blade Mark K-alert here. This just tells you how much time's left on your Blade Mark, how much time's left on your Phantom Blades, which is going to be your range ability. You also have your Empyrean Ascension here. You have the 60-second version here that's going to tell you that it's up, and it counts down to let you know when it comes off cooldown. Same thing up here, and then underneath them you can see we have the one that says up on it. This will tell you how long you have during the duration of that cooldown. You'll get to see that in action in the rotation section. And of course, same thing for arcane manipulation. Over here on the right, we do have a planar shield here just to let you know that it's there, so you can see how many stacks of planar shield are left, so you can keep that up. In PvP, this is an extremely large reduction, so it's definitely a good idea to keep this up if you decide to use this build or a variant of this build in PvP. So that's it for the K-alerts, guys. Now let's go ahead and discuss how to play Harbinger. The single target Harbinger rotation is actually not too terribly difficult. It's more of a priority than it is, say, a rotation though. So the first thing you want to keep in mind is that Vorpal Slash is a very high priority. You don't want to delay it for anything really. For Tempest Winds, that's going to be your channel. This guy you're going to want to try and use right after a proc, ideally, and do not delay Vorpal Slash at all for it. For Storm Shroud, in the beginning, we're going to use Lightning Strike, Tempest Winds, and Vorpal Slash for those crits. But after that, these all have different cooldowns, so you're not going to be able to get all 3 in there every time. So just keep that in mind and try and get 1 or 2 of them in the crit rotation if you can. And then lastly, for Blazing Light, you want to try and never cast this from here other than in the opener. After that, you're going to want to try and refresh it with Lucent Slash whenever possible. And you want to do that again on like 2 or 3 seconds if you're new, because it's really tough because of the delay when you use Lucent Slash. It doesn't always refresh it for you, even on a 1-second tick sometimes. So let's see what this looks like, guys. We're going to turn around. We're going to use Lucent Slash to proc our Eldritch Gift. Once we have that, we're going to look straight at the boss. We're going to use Phantom Blades, Hailstorm, Piercing Beam, Rending Slash, Blazing Light into our cooldowns, and then we're going to use our Lightning Strike, Vorpal Slash, Tempest Winds. And once that's done, we're going to go right into our 1 spam. And keep spamming that 1 key, proc. Vorpal Slash is up, so we're going to use Hailstorm, keep going, 3 to refresh our Blazing Light, keep going with the 2 for Lightning Strike, Vorpal Slash, And then we're gonna have we're gonna go ahead and do a shift 2. For that, we're gonna wait for Vorpal Slash. We're gonna refresh these two right here. Use a proc, and then Tempest Winds. And then we're gonna go use our crit thing, and then Hailstorm. Use another one, and keep going. You can see it's kind of hectic for a minute, but most of the time you're spinning in your 1 and your 2 key. So pretty good stuff. We're gonna use that, and use a 2 key, and then we're gonna go ahead and use our Vorpal or our Tempest Winds because we have enough time for Vorpal to be done. Use Vorpal, shift 2 to refresh your stacks, 3, and then Q, and then back to our cooldown block. We're just gonna wait for Storm Shroud to come back up really quick. Nope, we're not. We're gonna use Vorpal and Lightning Strike and keep going. Alright, so that was about a minute. You can see we left at about 87 or 88. It gets a little bit hectic trying to narrate that, of course, because there is a lot of stuff going on, but the majority is you want to try and make sure you're maintaining your stacks of conductive medium. You can do that 2 ways. You can just literally hit your charge blade real quick if you want and turn it back on, and that'll give you refresh it. Or you can use a shift 2, which uses your Icicle, which is from your Stormcaller tree, which is a higher priority, but it does use charge, so you want to be careful with its usage. Hailstorm will also refresh your conductive medium. If your conductive medium ever falls off, you literally just come up here like this and go click it really fast to get your 3 stacks. And that'll get you 3 stacks. You can actually keybind that too if you want to. So pretty easy stuff, guys. Now let's go ahead and talk about the Cleave rotation, or the 2 target rotation. So the dual target rotation is actually really similar to the single target rotation. The one thing to keep in mind here is you're going to be using Blade Mark right after your cooldowns, so all your single target stuff hits both targets. So let's see what that looks like. We're going to go ahead and focus up this second boss here by using a Shift F and pick this as our primary target. We're going to come back here really quick and proc our Eldritch Gift. We're going to start off by going Hailstorm, Piercing Beam, Rending Slash, Blazing Light into our cooldowns, and then Blade Mark, Vorpal, Tempest Winds. And then from here we're just going to keep spamming our 1 key and getting procs and using them. And then we're going to make sure that we're maintaining our buff and also our Lucent Slash. And keep going. You can see we're doing like 140k or so right now. We're going to use Vorpal and then a proc. Keep going here. We're going to use a shift 2 to maintain our stacks of conductive medium. We're going to go ahead and refresh our Lucent because our piercing beam was coming off. We're going to use a lightning strike. Then we're going to go ahead and use our proc, our crit proc with Tempest Winds into a Vorpal into another proc. Then we're going to use a Lucent Slash, proc again. Going to keep on going here, spamming this 1 key furiously. And then we're going to go ahead and refresh that real quick. Back into our Hailstorm. Vorpal's coming back up. Proc into Tempest. You can see we're doing like 100k, something like that, so definitely not too bad after a minute. That's pretty much it for the dual target rotation, guys. If you don't mess it up and you do it perfectly, you can probably push 105, 110 with this character's gear, my character's gear anyway, which you'll be able to see at the end of the video. But pretty strong stuff, so now let's go out and talk about the AoE rotation. So the Harbinger AoE rotation is actually not very difficult at all. It's very easy, in fact. So what we're first going to do is we're going to turn and look at the wall. We're going to proc our Eldritch Gift. Once that's done, we're going to target the boss here, the middlemost mob. We're going to do cooldowns, Hailstorm, and then we're going to use our Raging Storm, Blazing Light, and then we're going to go into spam. And then shift 3 to consume. And we're going to keep on going here. Shift 3 to consume. You can see we're doing like 280, something like that. Shift 3 to consume that proc. You want to make sure that you toggle on your, oops, so we're going to go ahead and toggle that a few times. Get our buff back. Use our proc, use Z for Living Storm, and keep going with the 3 key. Shift 3 to consume. So basically you're just going to keep those 2 up, and you're going to want to manage your charge buff because you're not going to have anything to use it with. And then keep going. Do 3, and then shift 3 to consume, to put the Hailstorm up. And that's it. Oh, Living Storm now. And more 3 and shift 3. That's pretty much it, guys. It's really easy to play. You're just maintaining 2 buffs, and you're going to be happy to maintain your charge, which is something. But you're also going to have to, at some point, you're going to get charge starved. So you want to make sure that you get some charge back before Hailstorm comes. Put Living Storm back up. You can see it's been a minute or so. We're still doing about 205, 210k, something like that. Our cooldowns are back up. So it'll probably settle in like 215, 220. Not too bad at all, especially for a soul that's a top single target melee DPS as well. So. But that's it, guys. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out. And I will see you guys next time.